On Larry King Now, the opposition host, Jordan Klepper.
I wanted to satirize what these fringe outlets were.
Alex Jones, though, is like, that's a little weird.
It's a little weird. I think, like, attitude-wise, he's a big, huge, blustery character, which is not who I am. I'm the body of a Jesse Waters or a newsman. Alex Jones is the body of a pill salesman.
You host the show, you write it, you produce it. Why so many roles?
I put the blame on Jon Stewart. He kind of created with The Daily Show a world where everything runs through him, and I think you get a clear voice, and so I think we kind of have been built out of that structure, for better or worse.
Has making the show changed anything in you politically?
As humans, you know, we want to put things into categories, we want to pick a team, we want to win, and that I can empathize with, and so I understand why moderation is so difficult, but I think the more and more I get involved, the more strident I get with some of these causes.
Plus,
I'm a lucky guy, I get to work on television, but I'm a fairly boring guy back home who just likes to sit at home and talk to his wife about Jack White albums and whatever anime that she's into.
that's it?
That's basically it.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our guest today is comedian Jordan Klepper, originally known for his work as a correspondent on The Daily Show. Jordan has since taken over his own series called The Opposition with Jordan Klepper. He's host, co-writer, co-creator, and executive producer. He also washes up and gets food. The Opposition with Jordan Klepper airs weeknights at 11:30 p.m. on Comedy Central. Is your character modeled after anyone?
It is. It's a hodgepodge of a few different people. But as we were creating this character, we're looking at the fringe characters like Alex Jones from InfoWars. We're taking characters that were also farther right on Fox, kind of your Tuckers, your Hannity, and your Jesse Waters.
So this is all a parody of them?
I think when we were creating the show, I wanted to satirize what these fringe outlets were. Like the point of view of the Breitbarts and the InfoWars were kind of the ones that were gaining traction as we were building this show. So we wanted to build a show around what that would look like if it was given a budget and a year in the future.
Alex Jones, though, is like, that's a little weird.
It's a little weird. I think, like, attitude-wise, he's a big, huge, blustery character, which is not who I am. I'm the body of a Jesse Waters or a newsman. Alex Jones is the body of a pill salesman, but his mindset is that of like a paranoid and conspiracy mindset that felt like it was setting the tone. So it was like, let's take the mind of Alex Jones and some of those wild thoughts, let's mix it with something that's a little bit more traditional news.
And Hannity, of course, is Trump's chief of staff.
He is now state-run TV, and so I think that's something we're starting to even evolve our show around that, where that's a big talking point right now.
How do you satirize a presidency that's a satire in itself?
Well, what we try to do is we try to satirize the tactics and then just play in the tactics. I think the benefit that we have where I get to play characters, I get to show more than I get to tell, and so I think like what you're seeing with the Trump administration, what you're seeing with the Alex Joneses, what you're seeing with Hannity some of these nights is like some of these tactics of finding enemies, of distraction, of victimhood. These are things that like the Trump administration peddles and plays with. And so what we do is we take those tactics and then we just play. We heighten, we try to show some of the logic behind the chaos.
It is all fake news.
It's all fake news. I think if you label it as fake news, it's all fake, although we were the original fake news.
Do you know if Trump or anyone in the White House in his circle is watching?
That I know they watch a lot of TV. We've had Scaramucci was on last week. Carter Page has been on our show, and so we're in the environs of the White House. But I know right now he's pretty focused on Fox. So
are you the alt-right?
We don't call ourselves the alt-right. We call ourselves the fringe, because I do think alt-right is a dangerous term and can get pretty dark in ways that our show wants to find a little bit of the humanity of those paranoid points of view, but alt-right I think moves into places that are more nationalistic or more racist in a way that we don't want to traffic in.
Like Alex Jones, do you ever take the viewpoint that those school shootings didn't happen?
I think for us that was when we played around in that world. I think we had students from Parkland on our show, and they were getting flack from InfoWars and from the Fringe that were not only saying they were crisis actors, but were saying that their voices weren't legitimate.
And did you take that attitude?
And so we pushed them on it, and I think like that was something that's a fine line to walk. But actually, my favorite little moment from that is Delaney, one of the students there. I asked her afterwards, like, how was that? I know, I was pushing you in this direction, and she was like, oh, it was fun. It was like talking to the internet. The garage was like, oh yeah, they experience this all the time.
Have a studio audience?
We do have a studio audience.
Where do you shoot it?
We shoot it in New York in the Pennsylvania Hotel.
Really, that old
The
Pennsylvania?
old Pennsylvania Hotel. So
Wow.
there's been a lot of Maury shot there, a lot of small shows
I
shot
didn't
there.
know that.
Yeah, it's got
That
a lot
was
of history.
kind of a dump.
It is. In fact, when we went to look at the space, they were shooting a show called Worst Cooks. So you can imagine how the place smelled. Even a cooking show in and of itself is going to smell a little ripe. But
You host the show, you write it, you produce it. Why so many roles?
I mean, I think on cable they make you do everything.
It's your baby.
It's my baby. I put the blame on Jon Stewart. I think he kind of created with the Daily Show a world where everything runs through him, and I think you get a clear voice, the things move efficiently, and it's sort of what the host in those types of satirical shows was expected to do. And so I think we kind of have been built out of that structure, for better or worse.
Did you like working for John?
I really did. It's such a highlight. I grew up watching John, and to be able to get to work with him, kind of collaborate with him, and watch him be a boss was.
Don't you find liberals watch MSNBC, conservatives watch Fox News, so they are preaching to the choir?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Isn't that true?
I think that is true. I think as humans we want to be told that we're right, and so we search that out. We have our golden rule on our show is may you only hear from others what you've already been telling yourself. And I think that's in today's news. I think we're constantly plugged into the thing that feels like it's just validating our POV.
You recently hit the 100-show mark, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What are the goals? To stay on forever?
101 is the goal. I think that was a big marker for us because it felt like we got our sea legs. We know how to make TV. We've been through some of the tough parts. We've gotten out on the other side. I think for us, it's to continue to evolve to 200. A luxury we have with our show is we've created it so it can change. It should be reflected. It can evolve as things change. And in the Trump administration, things change day in and day out.
This administration.
Yeah.
I said it's hard to make fun of it.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it hard sometimes to come up with where you're going to go when it in itself is already there?
For sure. I think you're battling not only the creativity of the Trump administration, but just the overall speed.
Is that the word you use?
Yeah, we use other saltier words as well. But I think for us, you can't hold on to a narrative. You kind of have to just reflect the thing that is happening that morning because Trump's going to tweet out something that afternoon that's going to change the narrative too. And so for us, it's about exploring that thing here and now, and then also looking for ways we've had to adapt the show so that it can be more up to the moment. Because when that new narrative comes out at 4:30, we might not be able to get it on the show that's going to air at 5:30, but we might be able to do an internet piece to kind of reflect that as well. You have to stay agile.
Invite Trump on?
He's more than welcome to come on. Hopefully he's got better things to do.
He might find a home there.
He can.
Our guest is Jordan Klepper. We're discussing his path to comedy, his recent special about the gun debate right after the break. Stay with us. We're back with Jordan Klepper. He hosts The Opposition with Jordan Klepper, airing weeknights, 11:30 p.m. on Comedy Central. When you were a kid in Michigan, Kalamazoo, Michigan, what was your dream as a kid?
Boy, as a kid, I wanted to be an archaeologist. I wanted to be a paleontologist. I think that was mostly because I liked Indiana Jones and Jurassic Park, and I quickly realized, or years later, that it might have been the acting part that appealed to me more than the science. And I went to college on a math scholarship and started doing improvisational comedy there because it was something that I saw on television, I enjoyed, and kind of found that to me was much more interesting than math.
Are you related to Tim Allen?
I am. He's my mom's cousin. He was my dad's roommate in college.
You know him well?
I would we would go to Lions games on Thanksgiving every year, and so I kind of grew up watching Tim and Home Improvement take off, and it was really fun to see somebody in your family actually make it on that kind of a stage.
You were in Second City?
Yep, I went to Chicago, I did the Second City, I did the Improv Olympic, I kind of lived in that sketch comedy world. Met my wife there, we toured the world doing sketches, writing our own sketches, improvising. It was kind of a trial by fire, but it was a great learning ground.
How'd you get the gig on Comedy Central?
Well, I had auditioned for The Daily Show a few times, and John Oliver left, and they sent out an audition pack and auditioned myself and my wife. We put on a tape together, and they asked for us both to apply and go in and read with Jon Stewart. And it's a really quick turnaround. You go in, you read with John, which was a highlight, a nerve-wracking highlight, and then they gave me a call and told me 4 days later, bring your suit, you might be on TV on Monday, and indeed I was. They throw you right in.
Not your wife?
Not my wife. It was a unique situation to say the least. We auditioned together. They were looking for one person. They brought us both in. We both read with John. I think we both felt really confident about it. I was the one who got it. She did not.
How did that affect the home atmosphere?
Oh, only like that. I mean, let me tell you.
Is she a comedian?
She's a comedian, and she works on the show with me right now at the Opposition.
She does.
She's super funny, 10 times more talented than I, and so I think for us it's sort of what this industry is. You see a success in getting a dream job, but with every dream job you get, there's so many other talented people who don't get that job.
Why did The Daily Show work so well? You did 170 episodes.
I think you had a great person in charge who knew what he wanted to say, and you had a show that started to grow with what I think the culture wanted, which was somebody articulating what was happening in the news cycle, and these administrations in a way that was more than just the veneer of a one-off joke. And I think John kind of created that type of satire, and I think that's why people continued to flock to it.
True genius.
I think so. I think he is somebody who's one of the smartest people I've ever seen. And one of the funniest people as well.
Are you surprised he left?
I was, because I wanted him there for years and years. I do. John he's such a kind, nice man, and so he was able to, as I got my show, I'd sit down with him and gave me advice not only on creating the show, but more so on how to be a boss. And that's one of the things that they don't tell you about. But you do your show, you get to make jokes and yucks, and it's what I've been prepping to do. But
there is no boss school.
There's no boss school. And it's like, I only know one other person, and then Trevor, who got to do it for about a year when I got on board. So I'll talk to these guys about how you get stuff done.
Yeah, I still don't know. I'm not a boss.
Please tell me if you know anything.
I'm not. I work here. I mean, I'm part of the program and it's my show, but I'm not a boss.
You're not a boss? Well, you figured it out then.
We've had another school shooting. Nothing's being done about it. You recently shot a special on the topic. What was the gist of that show?
Well, so when the March for Our Lives was happening a month ago, we come at it from a satirical point of view, but it was a really inspiring thing to see these students take control of the narrative, and I think there's some optimism in that conversation. And so what we started to, we talked to a lot of students from Parkland, but we wanted to highlight some of the other students that were involved, and we found a group of students outside of the DC area who had gotten together and just on their own organized hundreds of rooms for other students coming from all across America to come to be a part of the march, to organize. And so for us, we wanted to highlight that. And satirically, we wanted to stop this kid movement that's trying to take.
You were anti the march.
We were anti the march. So we infiltrated a student's home, and we did a show from the living room of a student.
Did you yell at the kids whose friends were shot?
I didn't know. I would say we pushed them when we had the Parkland students on.
Push them on what?
I mean, I think what we were using is the talking points of the far right.
Which were?
Which were, at that point, there's the crisis acting talking point, but the bigger one was, you're just kids, what do you know? What gives you the right to speak up and to talk about this? And I think as you talk to them, they make the points, we don't have to. They're articulate, they care about this, and they've grown up in a culture where they have to practice for these types of scenarios. I think you're seeing it this week, you see these students who, they think about this day in and day out, and nobody's listening to them, or at least they weren't before Parkland.
Was the documentary funny?
I'd like to say that we found some humor in it. I think when we did our show from there, the point is to highlight some of these inspiring voices, and I think the humor is we're making fun of these voices who feel like they're dinosaurs in this gun control debate.
Why do you think nothing happens?
I think we're locked in to people. I think the gun lobby has too much power over people in power, and I think.
Well, do they?
I think they totally do, and there's not enough of a movement as far as voting goes to get those people out, and so that's where I think the kids actually do pose a real threat.
Coming up, we're talking big risks, secret talents, and the late night landscape with Jordan Klepper, and we'll be right back. show is The Opposition with Jordan Klepper. It airs weeknights at 11:30 p.m. on Comedy Central. Our guest is its correspondent, host, everything, Jordan Klepper himself. Late night hosts are becoming more political. You like that idea?
Yeah, I think it's reflective of the times. I think late night used to be something you'd go to bed to as a diversion for the day, and I think now people seek it out as sort of a synthesis of the things they've experienced. So it seems like a natural evolution.
Are you following the Stephen Colbert pattern?
I mean, Colbert was definitely somebody at The Daily Show who kind of defined what it was like to be a correspondent. And I think The Colbert Report was a show that showed that you could filter news day in and day out through a persona. And so I think for us, I think that's proof of concept that you can play a heightened character and people get it.
I went on with Colbert, and we were talking before, and I got it, of course, so I went with it and played the whole humor thing. But he said a lot of guests don't get it.
It's part of the fun of the interviews, I would say, is that no matter what, the guest has to calibrate to something that is strange and new. And whether you get it and you want to be funnier, or you want to double down, or you want to play against it.
But if you don't get it,
if you don't get it, I think that's at least somewhat revealing of you as a guest. So I think for me, that's always one of the most fun parts, is that we get to do this dance.
The late night landscape, though, is still overwhelmingly white and non-female.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's something, when I got this role, I think that was part of the reason I wanted to play a character as well. I'm a white man, and I think right now there's a lot of white men who host late night shows, and so I think part of what I get to do is satirize that, be that thing that people are frustrated about. So I understand the privilege, and I think I get to play a character who doesn't, and hopefully in some of that we get to explore why that is an issue.
We play a little game here, Jordan, of If You Only Knew. But what's your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure? Vinyl records. I spend too much money on them, and I probably don't listen to them enough to make that.
Do they scratch?
They do scratch. I need to get a better record player.
Last time you were starstruck?
Last time I was starstruck, John Cleese. He came at the Daily Show, and it was amazing to see somebody I watched growing up, and part of the reason I'm doing comedy. Strangest
job you ever had?
I used to clean carpets for old college dorm rooms, and it was terrible.
Person you'd most like to have on The Opposition?
Oh, I'd love to have Elon Musk.
Secret talent?
Oh boy, hopefully I've used them all. Hopefully you've seen enough of it. I have amazing eyesight, which only makes me paranoid when I'm driving in cars.
2015?
Yeah, whatever the best number is, that's
best.
what I have, yes.
Weirdest fan encounter?
Weirdest fan encounter? I went to CPAC a couple weeks ago, and I had a fan stop me for a selfie, and we were filming something. I said I couldn't, and immediately started yelling at me, calling me a hack and all terrible sorts of things, and then asked for a selfie again, and I said we were filming, and this went on for a minute and a half of total anger and vile and just wanting to get a picture.
That's the conservatives, right? Person you'd trade places with for a day?
That's a great question. I think I would love to trade places with Kellyanne Conway and see what's going inside that mind for a day.
Biggest risk you ever took?
I think moving out to New York City without a whole lot of money in my pocket, and me and my wife and girlfriend at the time just decided it was time for a change and time to step out into the unknown.
You have children now?
No children.
Comedian who made you want to pursue comedy?
I would say that would be Monty Python. I think I grew up watching them and what they did.
What do people get wrong about Michigan?
I think people don't know that Michigan is beautiful. I think when I tell people about how gorgeous the lake is and the beaches are, people talk about these East Coast, these West Coast lakes. Get to Lake Michigan. It's gorgeous.
What are you bad at?
I'm trying to get better at decisiveness. That was something that Jon Stewart was incredible at, and with a job like I have, you're faced with 1,000 decisions and 999 no's every day, and so I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get there quicker.
If you could speak to an animal, what would you choose?
I'd speak to a dog because I can tolerate them.
Most people say a dog.
I think so. I'm more interested in what a dog has to say, and I don't know what I'd ask them. I guess.
I think I talked to a giraffe. I like to look up to people. Is there something you long believed to be true and realized wasn't?
That I long believed to be true. I think I had a faith in God in a way that was challenged in college, and I think I kind of became much more of an agnostic over the course of time And that would just came through years and years of just starting to question those things that were just sort of
Me too.
yeah.
Not getting answers.
Yeah, yeah. And you're like, oh, why did I think this 20 years ago? Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll just, now I know that there's maybe nothing out there, and I'll be a sadder person. So I guess that's a success.
Tell me something people don't know about you.
You know what? I think what they probably don't know is that, you know, I'm a lucky guy. I get to work on television. I get to do kind of my dream job, but I'm a fairly boring guy back home who just likes to sit at home and talk to his wife about Jack White albums and whatever anime that she's into.
That's it?
That's basically it.
Do you want a family?
I do. I mean, I think I have one. I think my wife and I are very happy, and I think we also, like, for better or worse, creating a show like this becomes your family.
I know, but would you like a little one at home?
A little. You know, I think there might be a little one in the future. We're at the point right now where we're trying to figure out how to do the show, and the show part 2 would be the family.
Jordan will answer your social media questions in our final segment. The Opposition with Jordan Klepper airs weeknights at 11:30 on Comedy Central. More right after this. We're back with Jordan Klepper. We have some social media questions. Mez Zeb asks, what development over the past 2 years in American politics has troubled you the most?
I think the Republican establishment's response to Trump has been most troublesome. I think I can wrap my head around Donald Trump getting into office, but I'm surprised at how quickly the ideology of the Republican Party has shifted to just supporting this populist idea.
Party over country.
Yeah, and I think that's scary to me. I think there's that's a trend that we have to stop.
Julian Troy, what's the most played out story in the news right now? What isn't getting enough attention?
Well, I do think, like, we were just covering the teacher strikes. I think that's something that there's not enough conversation about the money that's going to teachers right now. I think, and gun control and gun safety is in the news right now. It needs to stay in the news. And I think it needs to stay all the way up until the elections.
Why doesn't it?
Why doesn't it stay in the news?
Yeah.
I think the news moves faster than any one issue, outside of the issue being Donald Trump. And so
He's the news every day.
he's the news every day. And I think, like, you know, I think there was more of a shelf life to this last cycle. I mean, I hate to speak so crassly about it, like it's just news, but I think, again, my hope goes in with these students because they're able to keep a social media presence, but unless it's in front of our face, we are clicking on the next thing.
Well, news is supposed to be that which is out of the ordinary. Mm-hmm. Trump is so out of the ordinary, he's in. Mm-hmm. So why doesn't news like a teacher strike or a shooting go longer?
I mean, I think, like, right now we are all addicted to this Trump spectacle, and I think we are so partisan, so it feels more like a sport, and news has become like, how's your team doing? Let me check the New York Times today. Is this news story good for my team? Are we up 2 points? Are we down 2 points? It feels like until it can connect to that narrative, people aren't clicking.
Jay Ditorio 1, are you a comedic journalist or a journalistic comedian?
I don't consider myself a journalist. I'm a comedian first, and we approach the show from that point of view. Like, we take what we say seriously, but I think a lot like Hannity's and these folks who are late at night, like, I think it's very important to see us as people who are expressing an opinion and not journalists unto that self.
Derp Herberts asks, is your comedy closer to the format of the Colbert Report than any other previously existing shows? Is switching Colbert's inspiration from Bill O'Reilly to Alex Jones a sign of the times?
I mean, I think
Two good questions.
Those are two good questions. I would say, functionally, playing a character is more like Colbert. He was the one who created that situation. I think when I was crafting this show, Colbert definitely had O'Reilly and the Bush administration. And right now, we're looking at Alex Jones. We're looking at the Hannitys. Specifically, Jones is something for us that felt like it was 2018. It was less the flag, the billowing flag. It was more the paranoia. It was more the we're right, everybody else is wrong. It was more us versus them. And so I do think if you had to pick a voice of 2018, I think it coming from the fringe feels like it's more the Trump era. Colbert
was the pompous Bill O'Reilly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that trope still exists in modern media, but it is evolved in a place that feels a lot less like American flag pins.
Does engaging so much with alt-right fringes take a toll on you?
Sure, I think the news, unto itself is exhausting. And so for us, it's important for us to try to to see some sunlight every now and then, and to try to find, when we're engaging with the Breitbarts or the InfoWars or the Daily Callers, like, you can't just stay in that world. And so we will watch what the narratives are on that side, but also still check in on other news sources to see the other narratives so we don't get down too much of a rabbit hole.
Has making the show changed anything in you politically?
For me, in working at The Daily Show, I've gotten much more passionate, but much more empathetic towards the people, but much more passionate towards the causes. As humans, you know, we want to put things into categories. We want to pick a team. We want to win. And that I can empathize with. And so I understand why moderation is so difficult. But I think the more and more I get involved, the more strident I get with some of these causes, because they just keep happening again. We talk about guns, and from that, seeing this storyline go over and over again, it's only made me double down even harder on trying to make something happen.
Any of your personal goals changed?
I think for me, it's become a lot more about just day to day. I think, like, I've created a place that I want to work at with people I want to work with, and so it's become much more micro than it is macro. It's like, let's focus on this one story, and our goal, the thing that our show can do that other shows can't do, is show. We can be bigger, we can be stranger, we can play around with that. So how do we execute that better than what other shows might?
For your own sake, don't you want Trump to be reelected?
No. I think Trump is the elephant in the middle of the room. And as a comedian, you got to read the room, and you got to talk about the thing everybody's thinking about. So we have to discuss what's happening with Donald Trump. And that is a gift, because it's the thing we're all focused on. But you don't get to choose what else is important. And I think if Hillary were president right now, these shows would all be in different places, but you'd be able to have much more diverse comedy. You'd be able to talk about other issues, and I think that is something that we all kind of crave right now.
Great meeting you.
Larry, thank you so much.
Thanks to our guest, Jordan Klepper. The Opposition with Jordan Klepper airs weeknights at 11:30 on Comedy Central. And you can always find me on Twitter at King's Things. I'll see you next time.